Ministry can be hard at times in some seasons. And so just to be able to know that there's someone in your corner, someone that's there, knowing that they're there with you, praying for you, lifting you up and encouraging you on to continue in the things of God. I think that's the greatest privilege that we do have here.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Church Systems Podcast, where we give you simple solutions to tackle ministry's toughest challenges. I'm your host, Henry Tolbert, and today we're going to be talking about locking the back door. That's right. We're going to be talking about how you can do a better job, how your church can be more effective at not just reaching new people, but keeping them in. So buckle your seatbelt. I think you're going to really enjoy this. You know, here's a reality that I have come to see over and over again in churches across America is you get some people coming to visit, you get some people coming in, but maybe they don't stay. You know, maybe you even get some people who take the next step and say, hey, I want to join, I want to be a member, but they just seem to kind of slip away. If you and your church are really struggling with retention and you're struggling to keep people locked in, to keep them engaged, then this episode is for you because we're going to walk through some detailed strategy for how you can do a better job of making your church sticky, right? You ever had something sticky, like some honey or something, get on your hand and it just feels like you rub it and you do all these different things and it just doesn't easily fall away? Well, that's kind of the idea, is that when you talk about being sticky, you're talking about it's not easy to fall away. And there's a way that we can make it a little bit more challenging for people to just disappear. And we're going to dive into that in this episode. And I'm going to give you and your team the tools that you need to make sure that you can see the fullness of who God has called you to be as a ministry come out in the relationships and the connections that you're making with new people, right? So let's jump into it. So let's start by talking about what we mean when we say locking the back door. You know, closing the back door is a phrase that many church leaders are accustomed to. But here's what it's really trying to communicate is when the back door is open, what we're saying is people are coming into the front door, but they're walking out of the back door. And so what that feels like is that even though new people feel like they're coming in, they're not staying. So the church is not growing. We're not significantly outrunning the number of people that we lose. And so we end up kind of at a break-even point. And so when we talk about closing the back door, in our case, we wanted to go to the next level and locking the back door. Really, we're not trying to communicate, that we're going to hold people hostage. We're not saying that. But what we're saying is we want to have something in place so strong, a process in place so strong that it really makes it hard for people to fall through the cracks. And to me, that's one of the biggest travesties that I see in ministry is when people fall through the cracks, is, when well-meaning churches lose good people simply because there was no care, right? Simply because there was no process, simply because they didn't get engaged, all of those different things. So we talk about locking the back door. What we're trying to communicate is let's put processes in place that make it easy for people to stick to our church, all right? When we think about that, I want to talk about that in two primary ways or two concepts that I think are super important for us to navigate this. Two words I want you to get familiar with. One is assimilation and the other is follow-up. Assimilation and follow-up, right? Let's talk about this. When we talk about assimilation, we're talking about the process of helping new people feel like they belong and are an important part of the church. It's how we help people go from the outside to the inside, how we help them go from strangers to family, right? We want to make sure that we have a process that brings people on. It's how we be intentional about doing it. Not just hoping it happens, not just wishing it happens, but really putting a structured process in place to say, this is how we're going to help people come forward. When you don't have an assimilation process, new people join and they go through the process of joining the church. They go through the process of attending the church, but oftentimes they still feel disconnected. They still feel out of the loop. They still feel like they're not really a part of what's happening, and they feel like outsiders. And you want to change that. You want them to feel like they're a part. And so we talk about assimilation. This is a planned process for onboarding new members, right? When I say onboarding, I want you to think about this. When you go to get on the highway, and I still remember this from my driver's license exam. And it's probably fresh on my mind because I got 2 kids who in the last year, 2 of my daughters have taken the exam. But there's always something called an acceleration lane. And that acceleration lane is the on-ramp that allows you to go from the speed of the street to the speed of the highway. Right? You go from driving 15 miles per hour or 30 miles per hour down here on the street. And in that lane, you can start ramping up your speed because everybody up here is going 70, 75, and in some parts of Birmingham where I live, 85 miles an hour, right? Even though the speed limit might be 60, but that's another conversation, all right? But here's the reality. If I try to go from a stop sign to 75 mile an hour traffic, the chances of an accident are greatly increased. I know it's true because I see it every time I go to Texas. It's like they're never done doing construction. And so you have these places where you have to get on the highway in a one-lane road where there's construction going on. You got to go from a stop sign to 60 miles an hour. And it's really hard. And I want you to think about that in terms of church. Think about how it might feel or the fear that somebody, or the concern that somebody might feel trying to go from, I don't know anything, I don't understand anything, but let me jump in with everybody who's just going full speed ahead. And so assimilation allows us to onboard those people in a way that we can introduce them the right way, in a way that we can help them take the next step, in a way that we can help them plug in, all right? When we talk about follow-up, what we're talking about is maintaining engagement with new members or potential new members, right? It is us understanding that the decision to join a church is not a one-visit decision, that it's not always something that somebody comes and it's like, oh, this is so great, and they just go. And they all of a sudden they're going to join the church. I tell you, some of the best members that I've ever had join churches that I pastored are the ones who took their time in making the decision. They really thought through it. They counted the cost, and they got to know all the different parts of us to make sure that they were locked in and committed and plugged into who we are and what we were doing. And so that's what follow-up is. I like to think of it as a giant game of reminders, right? Like just constantly reminding people, like, hey, here's what's next. Hey, we're here. Hey, this is what's going on. Like just constantly doing that. I was talking to a pastor recently who plugged in and joined our program, and he said, man, I've been following your stuff for years. I really enjoyed it. He says, but the timing wasn't right. He said, but every time your email came through, it just seemed to come through at the right time. And so it kept you at the top of my mind so that when I got ready to make a decision, I already knew who to go to. And you want to do the same thing for the church. You want to keep the church top of mind, not just because you want them to be members, but because you're trying to help draw them to Jesus. Even if they never join the church, your follow-up could be a part of helping them take consistent and serious next steps to really walk with the Lord. And so you want to keep on doing it, all right? People need to be reminded. You know, people need to be reminded of even of critical things. People have to be reminded. You know, we have to be reminded. My wife said to me not long ago, hey, Henry, you need to rest. Like, you need to take a break. You've been going hard for a while. It's like, well, I'm good, right? And obviously my body needs rest. I feel tired, but I needed that reminder, right? I get reminders when bills are due, when my cell phone is needs to be paid, or I get reminders for all of those different things. People need reminders, and follow-up is one of the ways that we can do it, because effective follow-up really can turn a casual visitor into a member. That's how you can help a person step over that line and take the next step into becoming a real part of your church. And I'll say this again because I think this is so important. You've got to really challenge yourself to understand that membership is not a one-visit decision. I think too many churches make that assumption. You know, I'm an athlete, I'm a football player. or I was a football player. And one of the things that I noticed is that we didn't run a Hail Mary every play, right? We didn't just jump back, throw the ball as far as we could and say, maybe somebody's up there. We didn't come out and do that every play because we were constantly going for the big play, right? To use a baseball analogy, it wasn't a home run every single time, right? What we learned is that a 7-play drive or a 10-play drive is the most effective way to try to get down the field, right? Because we want to make sure that the goal is to score a touchdown. Whether we get there in 1 play, 7 plays, 10 plays, doesn't matter to us, but we want to give ourselves a great chance of getting there. And a part of it was just going. I mean, one of my coaches used to say all the time, I'll never forget this. He was our offensive coordinator when I was younger, and my head coach in my latter years. And one of the things he would always say to us is, take what they give you. Take what they give you. Don't try to force it. Don't try to make it. He said, just every single time there's going to be an opportunity, take the opportunity in front of you. And follow up is the opportunity in front of you. You can't make people join the church any more than I can make you purchase something, one of our products, one of our courses or something like that. But what I can do is make the offer. What I can do is stay in contact, keep providing value. What I can do is keep letting you know that I care about you and that I can help you solve your challenge. And your church can do the same thing. And that's where follow-up comes in. All right. So let's talk about some strategies to close the back door. When you think about closing the back door, there are a couple of very simple things that you can do that are going to help you go forward. All right. And here is kind of why we want to do those things. All right. I want you to think about this like mending your nets, right? I want you to think about like having a net where you're going fishing, but you've got holes in your nets and stuff just keeps crawling and falling out of the holes. And so even when you go to pull in your harvest, it's falling out because you got holes in your nets or holes in your pockets. We want to mend those nets. We want to search your church for the holes and ask yourself, where are people falling through the cracks? Where are people falling through the cracks, right? Like, why are people joining but not becoming volunteers? Where's the hole? Why are people joining but not becoming givers? Where's the hole? You want to plug the holes in your nets. And I think it's important that I say this before I jump into these strategies. You need to implement what I'm about to give you needs to be implemented before you try another growth strategy. All right. Please hear me. You want to close the back door. You want to, before you put more money in your pocket, you want to sew up the hole. Because if not, you're going to keep losing so much. And even if you keep a little bit, you're going to be heartbroken about what you lost. So you want to do these things first. It's super, super important. You want to make sure that you do proper preparation. You know, I'm a girl dad. I've got 4 daughters. And here's what I can tell you about every one of my daughters. I built the crib before they were born. Before they were born, I went in there and I did the fatherly duty of assembling their cribs. I didn't wait until they came home. I did it first. And so you want to do the same thing, all right? And so let's build a crib for the babies or the harvest that you're believing God for, all right? So there are 3 simple strategies that you want to have, and you really want to dive into these. And again, I'm going to give you kind of a 50,000-foot view. If you want more, then of course, I'll share with you a little bit later about how we can come alongside you and help you with some of this stuff in our Church Systems Bootcamp, all right? Number 1, you need a welcome strategy. All right. You want to think about how you will welcome new people and encourage them to stay. You know, what's going to be your plan for how you engage and greet people when they come to your church? You know, it's funny and it's maybe it's not funny. Maybe it's heartbreaking or maybe it's frustrating that it's possible for new people to come to our church on Sunday and never have a significant engagement with another person. The age-old scenario, pastor, you're standing there and you're preaching and you look out and you see everything. Because from the stage, we notice everything. We notice every person on their phones. We know who's chewing gum. We notice who fell asleep. We notice all these different things, right? But you're standing there. The one thing you notice is the new person. And you're like, man, there's a new person. I'm going to talk to him. You finish service. What happens as soon as you finish preaching? Somebody meets you at the first step. One of your regulars comes and they're well-meaning and they love on you and they shake your hand, tell you what an amazing job you did, even if you didn't do an amazing job. But they come, that's their way of showing you their support. And by the time you finish hugging them and shaking their hands, you look up and the new person is gone. And you get to your staff meeting the following week and you say to the staff, like, hey, did anybody talk to the new person? And you know how your staff responds? What new person? They respond as though none of them saw the new person. And you're like, the new person who was in the bright red suit, I think we all saw them. And you realize nobody touched them. And here it is, God gave you the gift of a new person and nobody connected with them. So you can't follow up. You can't do anything. All you can do is hope and wish that they come back. And in most cases, the chance of them coming back after not having any kind of connection is often thin. And so to solve that problem, you need a welcome strategy. You need a strategy for how you will welcome and engage new people. All right, it needs to include a couple things. It needs to include collecting contact information from people. If you don't collect contact information from your visitors, you don't have a way to follow up. So you need to collect contact information. I always aim for at least a name, a phone number, and an email address. But you need to collect contact information so that you can do that. I also think it's important that you have people who are dedicated to the job of greeting new people. Now, most churches have greeters and ushers and stuff like that. So this is a pretty common thing. But you want to make sure that people feel welcomed and feel at home when they come to the church. That's a part of your welcome strategy. And finally, I'll say this. You want to provide 3 to 5 opportunities across the service for people to connect with the church. Right? And those can be a myriad of different things, but you want to provide those opportunities so that people come forward, so that they connect, and so that they really get plugged in and involved in what's happening in the church, right? So strategy number 1, you need a welcome strategy. All right. Strategy number 2, you need a follow-up strategy. You need a follow-up strategy. You're asking, here's what I'm asking. How will you encourage people to take a clear next step? You know, when you follow up with people, what you're doing is you're giving them the encouragement, you're giving them the push to take the next step. That's one of the things that you want to do. Again, you know that membership is not a one-visit decision. And so you want to keep on following up with people. You know, oftentimes, if you keep on pursuing people, eventually you catch them. And so you've got to make sure that you play the long game. That your goal after a first visit is to get a second visit, and then a third visit, and then a fourth visit, and then a fifth visit. You know, I'm married. I've been married at this point more than 17 years. And I can tell you this, we didn't get married after the first date. No. If you want to marry somebody, you don't take them on one date and say, hey, will you marry me? Well, I don't know enough about you. I haven't met your family. There's a whole lot of questions that I've got. I got to get to know your personality. All those things matter. Well, I want you to think about church the same way. Is you want to court, you want to see the process. And I know we don't use that term. I might have kind of dated myself a little bit with that term, but you've got to pursue, you've got to, and not just pursue, but you want to start a process with people. You want to walk down the process, and follow up is how you walk down that process. Follow up is letting people know who you are. It's letting them know your mission and vision. Is letting them meet the pastor. Is letting them understand what ministries are available. Is letting them know how they can take the next step and plug in. Is letting them know when the next class is coming up. All these different things are there, right? This is absolutely one of the favorite things that we do in our Church Systems Bootcamp, because we give our churches the scripts that they need to follow up. We give them email scripts and text message scripts and phone call scripts and handwritten letter scripts. We give them the scripts that they need to take that next step, because follow-up is so vitally important. And so what you want to do is that you want to use these different tools and resources. You want to collect contact information from people so that you can help them take the next step. Right. And that's one of the things that we love doing for our partners, is that we not only do we give them the template for their cards and for all the resources that they use, but we also give them the tools. So we take the guesswork out. And so you want to take the guesswork out for your team as a leader. You want to take the guesswork out. You want to make sure that you help them do it. All right. Now, get this. This is a really small piece of intentionality, but I'm telling you, it will change so much about your church. You know, if you've ever been to a church service where there was a sound issue, that was happening in church. And you get feedback, and what does everybody do when feedback happens in church? They all turn around and look at the sound man as though he didn't hear it, and he's looking like, hey, I'm working on it. But you know what's really unique? Most of those sound issues can be fixed by turning a little small knob just 1 millimeter to the left or to the right. This really small tweak can affect a really significant change. And I'm telling you, this is a small tweak that can affect an amazing change in your church if you would allow it. And this is a part of you getting ready and you being prepared. I believe this. One of the signs that you're ready for something is that you get ready for it. Right, I know, a little tongue in cheek, but hear me. One of the signs that you're really ready for something is when you prepare for it. One of the signs that you're ready for a harvest of new souls and you're ready for new people is that you do stuff like this to prepare for them. That you prepare every week as though new people are coming to the door, and it makes a huge difference because this is how you prepare. This is how you prepare, all right? So you need a welcome strategy. You need a follow-up strategy. Last but not least, number 3, you need a next step strategy, all right? How will you help people get deeply connected to the church? How are you going to help them do that? How will you help them take the next step? You need a plan to move people towards purpose and calling. You need a plan to move people towards purpose and calling. That's one of the things that people really desire. For almost 15, 20 years running, one of the most Googled questions in the world has been, what's my purpose? People want to know why they fit, where they fit, why they matter, how they matter. They want to know all these different things. They want to make sure that they're locked in and connected. And so one of the things that you've got to do is that you need a plan for what people do next. Okay, do I join church, and as soon as I join church, the next time I just show up and sit in my same seat? Or is there a specific something laid out where you can show me where I fit? And people need to know why and where they fit. They need to know that. They need to know why they fit, where they fit. They need to said a different way. People love to be needed and known. They'd love to know that, hey, there's a place for me here. But they also love to know that there are people here who get me, who understand who I am, who understand the unique way that God made me, and you want to do that, all right? So here are 2 strategies or 2 goals I think that should come out of your next step strategy. There are 2 things that you want to do that I think really move the needle. Number 1, you want to get people connected to a team, whether that's getting them serving, getting them plugged in and being a part of ministry in some way. But then number 2, you want to get them connected to a group of people. You want to put them in community so that they can have other people that they do life with, so that they can make friendships and relationships that help them to know that this is going to make a big difference. And listen, I'm telling you, I gave you 3 simple strategies: welcome strategy, follow-up strategy, and next steps strategy. And if you would just take a moment and take some time and really start thinking about implementing these simple strategies, this is how you create the kind of environment that's ready for growth. This is how you create the kind of environment that closes the back door. But don't just take my word for it. I want you to hear from somebody who has been plugged in with our Church Systems Bootcamp, who's going to let you see how we've helped them close the back door. Check it out. So as we're talking about closing the back door, one of the things I really want to do is I want to connect this teaching with some boots on the ground experience. And so I want to bring in somebody who is very near and dear to me to kind of help talk through this just a little bit more. And that is my wife, LaToya Tolbert, who happens to be our director of discipleship. Hey, LaToya, how are you?
Hi, glad to be here.
I want to talk about this. We've been talking about locking the back door, helping churches be more consistent with retention. It's not just something we teach as a company we're trying to do. As our director of digital discipleship, you get to be on the ground, walking with them, providing connection and accountability. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing when it comes to really how we connect with pastors and their teams.
Well, I'll first say that being the director of discipleship is a very vital part of the boot camp and what we do, simply because we get to model what Jesus did with the disciples at the best that we can, and that's simply coming alongside the leaders and pastors, those who are part of the boot camp, and just be able to provide not just support for the boot camp, but life support. Just really being there during those challenging times, during those seasons where they may not feel like they're, meeting the goals that they set for the year or reaching the vision. And so for myself, really having this experience, this behind the scenes experience, it's very it's a joy, and it's also an amazing opportunity to have to actually come alongside those leaders, letting them know that we are here, letting them know that they have our support, simply because we're not there just to help them build the ministry, but we're really reaching out to them about their highs and lows, their wins. We're getting into, just sometimes real life issues. So it's more than just the boot camp. It's more than just simple systems. It's really about the kingdom at the end of the day, because we want to see the kingdom advance, but we're also showing that we are concerned, or for their life, for life as well. And so that's what I get to see. That's what I get to do. And just really making those phone calls, just picking up the phone and saying, hey, how you doing? How's it going? From time to time or week to week, just really being able to hear their voice. Because one of the things that I do know, ministry can be hard at times in some seasons. And so just to be able to know that there's someone in your corner, someone that's there, knowing that they're there with you, praying for you, lifting you up, and encouraging you on to continue in the things of God. I think that's the greatest privilege that we do have here, even with the boot camp, and having those pastors and leaders a part of what we're doing.
I love that because I get to see it firsthand. And really what we're doing is that we're modeling for pastors and leaders what we want to see for people, right? We're checking in on them. We're following up with them. We're walking with them. And it really is cool to watch it. Sometimes when we're working together and I get to hear you have a phone call with the pastor and hear you guys laughing and things of that nature, it's really awesome. But tell me this, LaToya, as and kind of walking through this role, what's one of the favorite success stories? What's one of the stories that you've seen?
Well, I don't know if I can just really get into the details due to the time, but I do remember a specific client, Pastor Jackie, who I love dearly. She is one who truly takes advantage of what we're doing. But I can remember her trying to get things set up and trying to make sure she had everything together, some automated things, and just kind of getting some reaching out to her members and her leaders, and just remembering her being able to call you. And I remember this moment because you're always willing to set up a Zoom call, and I'm able to say, hey, what do you need? Or myself, I'm able to say, what do you need? I can set up a Zoom call for you. I can make sure that, you're there, you're available. And I think in those moments, it's sometimes shocking because one of the for us making sure that our clients know is that, when you say, hey, call me at any time if you need something, a lot of times, and you've known this from the past, some people don't, because it's like, well, I know you got a lot going on. I know you're busy. I know you have this, but it's a different when it comes down to those simple system partners, and that partnership we have with them, and them being a part of what we're doing and what God is doing. And so for her to be able to call and you actually stop what you're doing and really set up something to say, hey, I'm going to share my screen, or I'm going to walk you through this step by step, so you can kind of get what you need, so you can really see what it is that you're trying to see and accomplish what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I think those are the moments that are just near and dear to me, simply because, I'm here when people really see that it just does something. And so in those moments, to see that sometimes it's not even about what she needed. It was just the fact that, someone was available to actually help her walk through those steps that were needed at that time. And so those are the moments that I actually get to witness, that many don't get to witness. Is just in everything that's happening. We really do want to see our partners succeed, and we want to see them prosper in what it is that they have been called to do.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that's one of the things I think makes us a little bit different, is that we are very hands-on. And, I've had coaches and experts tell me all the time, if you want to scale, you've got all these different things. But this is my calling. This is our part of what we do. So We never want to be too far away from the pastors that we work with because we know what's at stake. We know how important it is. I'm grateful that we get to be a part of it, that we really get a chance to do it. All right, let's close here. LaToya, tell me this, as you look at the future of how we're working with the church, what do you see on the horizon? What do you see coming down the road?
I really, honestly, if I said it before, the church is really going to experience a growth that is just uncontrollable. And it's one of those things where, I don't believe that God just gives a vision for any particular reason, but I do believe that God gave this vision to get us prepared in advance for what is to come. And so one of the things that I love and I really do see, because there are some times where pastors and leaders may not necessarily have that dream team, or they may have the dream team, but schedules may not really necessarily align with what needs to get done. And so just really seeing ourselves preparing and being ready to step in and help them carry the load when they may need those different things, those tasks done. But we're able to have those systems that are already set up, already in place to help them continue on, even when things may seem a little slow or may seem like there's a little delay. We're already there, ready to step in, ready to help them save time and help them get their leaders prepared, help them get their congregation prepared for what it is that God's getting ready to do, the people that are coming, but they will have those systems and processes in place so that it won't be just a place where there's dysfunction or chaos or just, but they're ready for what it is that is getting ready to come. And a lot of times I will use the term harvest, but now I want to say church growth. But we want to help just eliminate those barriers when that time comes. That's really what I see. There's really a hope for the future of the church. And I know in the midst of everything we're seeing now, God still has great things for his church. And we want to make sure that those pastors and leaders are ready for what God is getting ready to do.
That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, LaToya, for sharing that insight. And I'm so grateful to have you as a partner. Listen, if you're serious about closing the back door in your church, there are some things that you can do to move forward. So I want to share with you just a little bit more about how we can come alongside you and help you do this, because a core part of what we do is letting you understand you don't have to do it by yourself. So take a look at how we can come alongside you and help them. So to summarize this episode, if you want to make your church sticky, if you want to lock the back door, there are two things that you've really got to focus on and get serious about. The first is assimilation. How do you move people from the outside to the inside, from guests to families, from strangers to friends? How do you do that? That's going to be super important. And then number two, follow-up. Joining a church is not a one-visit decision. And so the more you can engage with people, the more you follow up with them, the greater the chances of them becoming more sticky. And so you want to make sure that you focus on those two areas. If you really want some help with this, I want you to go over to our website, getchurchsystems.com, and you can learn more about the Church Systems Bootcamp. Within our Church Systems Bootcamp, it's our 12-month coaching program where we work with our churches. And what we do there is that we give you these systems, we help install them for you, we help set them up, and we give your team the training that they need to execute them well. So not only is it the training, but it's the scripts for follow-up. It's the script for your new members class. It's even includes an online version of the new members class that we build and customize just for you. So go over and take a look at that because really the thing that's valuable to you, the information I think is top tier. But one of the things that's really valuable for you as a leader is time. It is time. There are so many things that you could create on your own, that you could do on your own, but it's time that makes all the difference. One of the reasons that I love to stop and get some of heaven's chicken, as I call it, when I love to go to Chick-fil-A, it's not because I don't know how to cook. But a lot of times it's time. It's making sure that I can do something that works for us. A leader recently said to me, she said, it would have taken us 3 years to do this ourselves. And in less than 30 days, here we are and we've got it. And so if you want to maximize your time and you want to get started with allowing us, me and my team, to put some of this stuff in place for you, go to getchurchsystems.com, look for the orange column, and check out our Church Systems Bootcamp. All right. I want to encourage you to stay tuned. Our next episode coming up up is going to be a really good one. I'm going to be sharing why most churches are planning to fail. You may not think it, but you might be actually planning for God to not do what you're asking him to do. And we're going to dive into what that looks like. All right, listen, I hope this is good for you. And I look forward to seeing you again in our next episode. Until next time, keep the gears turning. Peace.